Welcome to Politics Left and Right, everyone. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so, because it goes a long way in supporting my work. We bring you daily political commentary that affect you. Renee Good was shot dead in Minneapolis by Minneapolis ICE agents just a few days ago, shot in the face 3 times. She succumbed to her injuries. The question is, was this justifiable self-defense or was this cold-blooded homicide? The likes of Stephen A. Smith seems to believe that it was justifiable self-defense homicide. We have a full breakdown of what transpired on that day. Could the officer have avoided shooting this lady dead in the street, or was the officer triggered and let his weapon go with no remorse? That's the question. We have a full breakdown and exclusive footage as to what transpired on that day. Let's get right into it.
I'm going to show you the moment an immigration officer shoots and kills a woman in Minneapolis, 37-year-old Renee Good. It's disturbing, but it's critical to understanding how the law will handle those who enforce it. And really, it boils down to about 3 seconds and 3 shots fired. The driver of an SUV reverses, pulls forward, and the agent in harm's way shoots and kills. These crucial moments,
But was he really in harm's way? That is the question. This lady lost her life, and the question is, was this officer, was his life in danger when he fired those fatal shots on that dreadful day?
very possibly this video in particular, the clearest I've yet to see, form much of the basis of the official government account of what happened. That the driver was a violent rioter who weaponized her vehicle in an attempt to kill, and that the ICE officer, fearing for his life, fired defensive shots. Within hours.
No, I don't think that lady, Renee Good, rest in peace to her, was intending to kill anyone. I do not know her mind state in particular, but the footage I've seen does not look like it does look like she was trying to get away from the situation, get herself out of harm's way. But harm the officer? No. We'll see if the officer had a chance to get out of the way of the vehicle or if he had to fire those shots to save his life.
Hours of the incident, Donald Trump would agree with that version of events, saying the driver of the SUV violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer, while also claiming the officer seems to have shot her in self-defense.
This vehicle.
Well, of course, this is what Donald Trump says. He's a tyrant and a maniac, a human flesh monger.
Was used to hit this officer. It was used as a weapon, and the officer feels as though his life was in jeopardy.
I'm going to take you frame by frame through what we know from video evidence, expert opinion, and hard rules on the use of force, all of which could be used to determine whether this was indeed self-defense or something else.
Don't let the murderer leave!
We want the murderer of Renee Nicole Good to be brought to justice.
According to the Department of Homeland Security, ICE agents were carrying out a quote-unquote targeted operation in Minneapolis, and the official account is that civilians were trying to block them in. Video of the shooting about to unfold appears to support this, with this dark red SUV blocking the road, and these are ICE agents approaching the driver's side. We can see from this other angle, the SUV is actually parked here for some period of time. This man right here is the officer who within moments you will see drawing his gun. He's filming the car, walking around it, then disappears out of frame. Back to the other angle. The armed, hooded agents approach, ordering the driver blocking their way to get out of the car. You can see here, the reverse lights go on. Just a split second before, this ICE agent puts his hand on the door handle. He's going to try to open that door, but it's locked.
No!
The voice we're hearing there is of a bystander. What we can't hear is the driver herself. That's a key piece of evidence we're missing, because when weighing the totality of what's happened, the apparent fight or flight of the driver absolutely factors in.
That can include verbal cues, facial tics, whatever you're seeing. Someone has a look in their eye, you need to get in there, interview the officers who are right there, interview the officer himself involved in the shooting, get a better understanding of what it was he was seeing and what led him to believe that this posed such an imminent danger.
No!
Now, if we pause the video again right here, a whole series of things are about to happen in rapid succession, and I'll break them down one by one. First, you'll notice the reverse lights are off. The car's back in drive, and for the briefest of moments, at a complete stop. Second, the agent who just tried to open the driver's side door has now reached inside the vehicle itself. But third, and most importantly, we now see a third ICE officer emerge. This is the one we saw earlier, filming the vehicle circling around it. He's in front of the vehicle now, and he's drawing his gun.
There's no restriction about when you can take your weapon out of your holster or not, but normally it's when you feel like you are a potential threat. For instance, if you're engaged in an arrest, you have your weapon out in most cases during an arrest.
It's as the vehicle starts to accelerate forward, turning to the right, away from the officer with the gun, he fires 3 distinct shots. The driver immediately loses control.
So even as she's driving off, as you can see, he's out of the way. You can see his feet are out of the way of the vehicle. He is not about to be hit. He's already moved out of the way, but he already has his weapon drawn. But even as she's driving by, he's totally out of the way, and she's driving by, and he's still shooting. His life is no longer in danger. She no longer poses a threat if she ever did. She's going this way. He's totally out of the way and just shooting inside of the driver's door now. Not from the front of the vehicle, but from the side. He's totally on the side of the vehicle, totally out of the way where he's at here. And he's still shooting at her and unalives her.
Of the vehicle. Seconds later, it crashes hard into a parked vehicle on the side of the road. And we learn later, the driver's dead.
Oh my God! What the? What the?
So knowing how the altercation ends, let's play that video out once again without stopping and starting. Then we'll consider whether this supports or discredits the Trump administration version of events.
No! No! Shame! Shame!
In considering the federal narrative of what happened, let's go from easy to hard. Recall the story told by the President of the United States that the driver of the SUV violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer. It is incorrect to say the ICE officer was run over, because he wasn't. He's on his feet in front of the vehicle as the driver hits the gas. He appears to almost jump out of the way, and by the time he's firing his second and third shots, he's clear of the vehicle's path. He's still standing, even as the driver loses control. And within seconds, he's walking towards the car after it's crashed. What we can't be sure of at this point is whether he was actually clipped by the car. Trump's account is that the officer took time to recover in hospital, and he offered this video as proof that the officer was indeed hit. From this angle, it does seem possible that he was, but it's not conclusive. The video's so grainy, and honestly, it's hard to tell whether the compression of the zoom is just making it look like he was hit, or whether he was actually hit. Going back to this angle, it's still not totally clear to me whether he was or wasn't. It's hard to tell if he's pushed back by the car or he's simply jumping back out of the way. In any case, the real legal question at hand isn't actually so much about whether the officer was run over. It's whether he was justified in shooting and killing the driver.
As he was crossing in front of a vehicle, which the training says you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't cross in front of a vehicle.
And whether the training was followed is one thing to consider. This policy directive from the Department of Homeland Security states, DHS law enforcement officers should avoid intentionally and unreasonably placing themselves in positions in which they have no alternative to using deadly force. Translation, if you truly believe the subject you're dealing with is a violent and dangerous rioter, it is not standard procedure to then step in front of the vehicle that they're driving. But what about when the situation turns deadly?
What I see is very clear. I see somebody not listening to law enforcement, backing up, accelerating right into an ICE agent. What do you see?
What I see is a vehicle being used as a deadly force weapon. And that, in my opinion, based on my training, deadly force.
Yes, of course, keep in mind that these are bigots. Sean Hannity, this woman here, these people hate black people and they hate Hispanic people. And they hate left-wing people, because this was a white woman, of course, but they hate left-wing people. They hate people who support immigrants. They hate people who support immigration and who are against ICE. And this is the propaganda that they spew on a continuous basis. So, not surprisingly, they double down like Trump did and say that she was trying to run over the ICE agent and that she was using her vehicle as a deadly weapon, and thus the shooting was justified.
Is justified.
ICE has its own handbook, its own principles governing the use of force. And here's the entry on deadly force, which stipulates it may only be used in situations when an officer has probable cause that the detainee poses an imminent danger of death or serious physical injury to the officer or to another person. But importantly, deadly force may not be used solely to prevent the escape of a fleeing suspect. So let's look again at the clearest video we have. The operative question here, which really only a thorough investigation is going to be able to answer, was this driver fleeing from ICE agents or actually trying to run one over? And importantly, whether it was reasonable for the officer to think it was the latter.
The officer cannot read the mind of the driver. He only sees the vehicle coming towards him, accelerating towards him, and he is in the pathway. And so the evaluation of...
And you can see that the front driver's side shield has one bullet hole. That's because the other two shots were let off while she was already driving by, and he had his gun pointed at her at the driver's door. That first shot, yes, to the front shield when he was getting out of the way. But the other two, she was already driving by.
Is given these circumstances, what would a reasonable officer do in that circumstance?
What makes cases like this really difficult is that you're going to hear fierce opinion from both sides. One attorney, as on Fox News, saying this.
You know, you can freeze frame it, you can go forward a frame. Oh, here she seems to turn to the right. The bottom line is that agent had about a quarter of a second to make a decision. And when he made that decision, that car was accelerating towards him.
But then another attorney, obviously a Democrat, saying the opposite, calling Trump's explanation pure gaslighting.
What I can tell you is the narrative that this was just done in self-defense is a garbage narrative. That is bullshit. This was an agent recklessly using power that resulted in somebody dying.
Originally, the state of Minnesota, led by Democratic Governor Tim Walz, says it asked to be part of the investigation into this deadly shooting. But now, the federal attorney's office says they're off the case. The FBI, headed by Trump appointee Kash Patel, is the sole investigative authority on this matter.
Yes, and if it's headed by Kash Patel, he's in bed with Trump, literally and figuratively, because we know that Donald Trump allegedly had relations with Epstein and others behind closed doors in the bedroom. So, of course, and Kash Patel is scared to death. He should have been lost his job. He's not qualified to have the job. He's a hired hand, and he's there to do Trump's bidding and to get rid of the Epstein files, and he's done a good job so far. He's certainly not going to find anything wrong with this shooting. Immediately, it's going to be determined that it was a justifiable homicide. Immediately. Subscribe to the channel, everyone, and fasten your seatbelts. We're on for a wild ride here at Politics Left and Right. Stay free. Power to the people.